Mindfulness is holding the experience. Kindfulness is holding the experiencer. Christina Neff. I've been thinking a lot recently in the last week or so after Rob Reiner's death. I really didn't even know how much of his work I had appreciated or recognized. I kind of always thought of him as the guy from When Harry Met Sally. And, it's funny. I knew more about him, but that was kind of the association I drew in my mind. And, my partner and I were sitting there the other night watching a CNN special on his life. And, she, we were both stunned at how much of an impact his work had had on our lives. And also just the incredible amount of kindness he seemed to have shared with the world through his work, or his words, and through ultimately, just the sort of person that he seemed to be in the world. And running a community of mindfulness-based professionals, there's always talk about how to be more mindful in difficult times. I'm certainly a big fan of mindfulness and meditation, but I really believe in the end, what is going to save us is kindfulness. Kindness writ large, without buckets or boundaries, without distinctions or differences, and without pointing fingers or arms extended in any position outside of a heroic hug to people that you may not know or even care about, or sometimes not even like. We're all going through difficult times in our own unique ways. I can't remember the saying, but something along the lines of everyone's fighting a hard battle, so be kind. And I really think it's true. It's not always easy, and I certainly don't have all the answers. There are, in everyday life, infinite opportunities to be outraged. Lots of folks in the world deserve our disdain, and there are many people who history will ultimately judge badly. But when I focus on these people and this tsunami of suffering and the fire hose of fates that poor choices have foisted on all of us, I know for at least myself, I'm worse for the wear. And it matters, actually, at least to me, that I sanitize what matters most in difficult times: my mental health, my own sanity, and my safety from the machinations of a monkey mind that is mine, eager to demonize and catastrophize, and always willing to find another banana to chew. It suffers from that sort of rumination and just the general sense of finding people in life to blame. The practice of metta, at least for me in the last couple of years, loving kindness that extends without borders or boundaries, it's what ultimately always saves me. It's the one thing that captures what I personally believe to be the core truth about life. We always get to choose. It's the one freedom we never lose. And loving one's neighbors, even one's adversaries, and even one's enemies as oneself is no doubt a practice that it ain't easy. It's difficult for me as well, but it's actually the one thing that improves the moment to moment experience of what it actually feels like to be me. So if you're like me and you're having a challenging time at different points in your day or in your week or in your year or even in your life writ large, simply bring a difficult person to mind. It doesn't have to be the worst villain in the world right now. It doesn't have to be someone you hate or someone that you think is screwing up the world, but just someone that you have a challenging time with. And get a firm image of them in your mind, and slowly as you're able, try to picture them on the very best day of their life. See them in this really special, really excellent, really generous, really giving day. Picture them smile, see them truly radiate kindness, calmness, innocence, even some sort of altruistic emotion for another, even if it's just for a moment. Sink into the feeling of truly wanting that person to be completely happy, safe, and free from the worst sickness, sorrows, and the slings and arrows of this life that ultimately land on each of us. And if you could give them that freedom, if you could give them that experience of radiant, carefree happiness right now, you would. If you could protect them from harm, from hurt, or from sorrow, you would. And if that doesn't work, if you really struggle to imagine this person in the sort of best set of circumstances because you don't want that for them, I get it. Try it this way instead. Imagine them on the first day of their life, or on that very last day of their life. And just try to imagine the 2-year-old version of this really difficult person for you, or this challenging person for you. Just try to imagine the 2-year-old version of them, innocent, kind, sort of unpoisoned by who they will one day become. Imagine they stub their toe or cut their knee or bang their head and they come running in your direction for help. What would you do? And I think when I ask myself that question, there's some inherent goodness in me, even with the worst people in my own life, or the people in my life that are avatars of what I think is worst about the world, because I don't really have many really bad people in my life, but certainly there are people in the world that I have a difficult time feeling any sort of empathy or compassion for. But I can picture them as a little baby and they're in need. And in that moment, I understand that I have the ability, the responsibility, and my own innate goodness sort of emerges. And I can imagine myself picking them up, holding them, hugging them, and letting them know it's going to be okay. Seen through the tabula rasa that birth and death can both bring, regardless of the object of my anger or my outrage, it begins to evaporate. Only the shared humanity and the great mystery of our shared experience on this planet as a human being remains. For myself, the same thing rings true. When I imagine myself in my worst moments and I'm finding myself difficult to love or even like, I can bring myself back to a point in my life where only love remains. And if you also, like me, reserve the harshest judgments for yourself, the same practice can apply. When judgment and self-criticism and that inner critic that we all have arises and appears in my own mind, I try to bring to my own mind a picture of myself when I was, I don't know, let's say 3 or 4, and I can see myself with a smile so pure, so loving, so generous, so innocent, that it actually doesn't even feel like me. Or I try to imagine my future self, and hopefully that's a long time away from these hazy, crazy, and dubious days, but I see that self drawing my final breaths. I see that childlike self with the bowl haircut and the simple, pure, authentic innocence or that future self worn, withered, and weary. And I tell him, them both, actually, that I'm here and that I got you and that it's going to be okay. Only an endless ocean of love, care, compassion, and curiosity remains. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. The Dalai Lama.